My wife and brother had a baby behind my back. When I refused to pay for it, my mom showed up at my job screaming I was ruining everything. About a year ago, my brother contacted me. He wanted to reconnect after years of not speaking. Now you must understand that my brother was always the golden child when we were growing up. He could do no wrong in my parents' eyes, and I was simply present. They weren't blatantly harsh, but I was clearly an afterthought. They made certain he received the best attention, everything. That's probably why I left home when I was 18 and haven't looked back. For years we didn't talk much. I was doing my own thing, getting a decent career, getting married, and attempting to establish a life for myself. But then, last year, my brother messaged me, claiming he and our parents missed me and wanted to make things right. I'm not sure why I agreed to it, but I did. I wondered if people change. Perhaps they genuinely wanted to repair things. So I allowed my brother back into my life. At first everything seemed fine. He started coming around more frequently, and I introduced him to my wife. They got along fine, or so I thought. But after a few months, I began to notice things that did not sit well with me. My brother began visiting more frequently, sometimes even while I wasn't home. My wife would dismiss it, saying they were just hanging out, but I couldn't get over the strange feeling I felt. Then, approximately 4 months ago, my wife broke the momentous news. She was pregnant. At first I was overjoyed. We were married, and I felt we were happy, so I assumed the baby was mine. But something seemed odd. My brother's visits grew, and every time I saw him with my wife, there was a tension I couldn't shake. He'd make jokes about the baby, touch her stomach, and say strange things that made me feel uncomfortable. I tried convincing myself that I was overthinking it. I wanted to trust my wife, but the more I thought about it, the more it didn't make sense. One night after she went to bed, I couldn't handle it. I snatched her phone while she was asleep, and began browsing through her messages. And there it was. The proof I didn't want to find. She had been cheating on me with my brother for months. And the baby wasn't even mine. It belonged to him. I felt nauseous. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the computer and trying to make sense of it. Finally, I woke her up and addressed her. She tried to deny it at first, but as I showed her the messages, she couldn't lie longer. She admitted everything. She had been sleeping with my brother behind my back. And they intended to tell me about the affair when the kid was born. I could not believe it. I just packed my stuff and departed. The next day I called my parents to tell them what had happened, hoping that for once, they would have my back. But no, they sided with my brother. They told me that he had made a mistake, that I should be the larger person, and that I needed to forgive him for the sake of my family. I could not believe it. My own family, whom I'd been separated from for years, was suddenly urging me to forgive the same man who had destroyed my marriage. That's when I determined I was finished with them all. I informed my parents I didn't want anything to do with them or my brother, so I filed for divorce. I assumed that would be the end of it, but things didn't finish there. Throughout the divorce proceedings, my ex tried to take everything I had. She and my brother made up this scenario that portrayed me as dominating and nasty. Of course, my family backed them up. It was as if I was the villain in this twisted version of reality, with them as the victims and me as the bad guy. In the end, she walked away with a significant portion of my money, but I was able to keep the house, which was a tiny victory. So now I'm divorced, shut off from my family, and attempting to pick up the pieces of my life. It's been 2 months since everything exploded, and I'm still trying to figure out how to move forward. I'm working harder and trying to focus on myself, but it's not easy. Every now and then, something reminds me of what happened, and everything comes flooding back. But you know what? I'm finished with them. My brother, my ex, and my parents may have each other. I do not need them. I've spent my entire life as the second choice, the one who is overlooked, and I'm not going to let it happen anymore. I'm not sure what the future holds, but one thing is certain. I will never let them back into my life again. Okay. So this is where things got worse, if you can believe it. When I left my ex and decided to cut relations with my family, I assumed they would allow me to move on in peace. I mean, I didn't have anything else to do with them, right? My wife cheated on me with my brother, my parents supported him, and I was done with all of them. No, it wasn't as simple. About a month after the divorce, my mother phoned me unexpectedly. Keep in mind that I hadn't spoken to her since the day I left, when she effectively ordered me to forgive my brother for ruining my life. I wasn't in the mood to talk, but she called repeatedly. I finally picked up just to find out what she wanted. She immediately launches into a guilt trip speech about how family is family, and that we should all remain together regardless of what happens. She claims my brother is severely struggling, that he has been having trouble finding work, and that now that they have a kid, they are really strapped for cash. She claims they've been relying on the settlement my ex-wife received in the divorce, but it's running out and they require additional assistance. Then she delivers the bombshell. She asks me to assist them out. Yeah, you read that correctly. The same family who threw me under the bus when my wife cheated on me with my brother was now asking for money to maintain themselves. I swear I nearly laughed when she said that. I was like, are you serious right now? You're asking me to help the guy who slept with my wife? You want me to pay for their mess? But she just kept going on about how they're struggling, how it's not fair to the baby, and how I should be the larger person. I could not believe it. After everything they had put me through, they had the audacity to approach me for assistance. I told my mother no, straight up no. I was not going to pay them a penny. I told her they could figure it out on their own, as I had to after they all turned their backs on me. But she wouldn't have it. She began crying, stating how I was being selfish, how I wasn't thinking about the kid, and how my brother was truly remorseful and only needed a second chance. She attempted to make me feel awful for not assisting them, but I wasn't buying it. I informed her that this was their problem, not mine, and that I was not going to become involved. I hung up the phone, assuming that was the end of it. But no. A few days later, my brother arrived at my residence. I'm not sure how he found out where I lived, but he was there at my door as if nothing had happened. I didn't want to let him in, but he wouldn't leave, so I decided to hear him out simply to get him to leave. He begins by apologizing, admitting that he made a mistake and that none of this was his intention. He claims that he and my ex did not intend for things to escalate to this point, and he did not anticipate that it would cause me such pain. I just stared at him, wondering if he truly believed everything he was saying. How could he not believe it would hurt me? He snatched my wife and my chance to start a family, and now he's standing here like it was all an accident. Then he strikes me with this. He's been having difficulties finding work since the affair was out, and now that they have a baby, they're really struggling. He says he knows I'm good at my profession, and was hoping I could assist him out until he gets back on his feet. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or punch him in the face. Seriously? This guy sleeps with my wife, makes her pregnant, and now he wants me to give him money? I stood there for a minute, unsure what to say. I finally told him to get lost. I informed him that he and my ex had created their bed, and now they had to lie in it. I was not going to bail them out, and I certainly wasn't going to give him any money. He tried to argue that I was immature and harboring a grudge, but I was having none of it. I told him that he was lucky I didn't knock him out right then. That's when the situation changed. My brother, who is normally smug and pompous, suddenly becomes enraged. He starts ranting at me, claiming how I've always been jealous of him and angry because his parents treated him better. He claims that I am just reluctant to help, because I am still upset that my ex chose him over me. I'm just staring at him, astonished. This guy believes he's the victim in all of this. He keeps saying that it's not fair that I won't help out, that he has a child now, and that I should let go of the past. He even had the gall to tell me that I should be thankful he intervened because my ex no longer loved me. That was it for me. I told him to leave before I called the cops. I wasn't going to stand there and let him say that to my face as if I hadn't already lost everything due to him. He eventually departed, but not before making one final stab at me, saying that I'd regret not helping him, that one day I'd need something from him, and he wouldn't be there. I laughed in his face, telling him I'd rather live on the streets than beg him for anything. After that, I hoped they would finally leave me alone. Of course, that was wishful thinking. About a week later, my father phones me. Now, I hadn't spoken to my father since the divorce, and I assumed he was calling to do the same thing my mother and brother had tried. Guilt me into assisting them. And I was correct. He begins off calmly, asking how I am and acting as if everything is normal. I was not in the mood for small talk, so I interrupted him and asked what he needed. He gives this long spiel about how I'm the only one in the family that is doing well right now, and how my brother and ex are going through a difficult period. He argues that as a family, we need to support each other, and that I should assist them because they have a baby to think about. I told him straight up, no. I wasn't going to help them, and I didn't care about their situation. He tried to claim that I was being selfish and wasn't thinking about the wider picture. He told me that if I didn't help now, I'd regret it later, because family is what matters most in the end. But you know what? I've been through enough to know that is not true. Family isn't always defined by who shares your blood. It is the ones who support you while others turn their backs. And my family. They turned their backs on me the moment they decided that my brother's happiness came before mine. So I told my father the same thing I had told my mother and brother. I was done. I didn't want anything to do with them, and I wasn't going to be their safety net anymore. I hung up, blocked their numbers, and have not looked back since. Okay. So this is where things got from terrible to utterly absurd. After informing my father I was done and blocking their phone numbers, I assumed that was it. How many times can they come back and ask for money, right? Turns out I was completely wrong. Because they weren't finished yet. My ex-wife was the second person to reach out to me. Yeah, the same woman that cheated on me with my brother, became pregnant with his child, and had the audacity to believe I would still heed what she had to say. It began with a random text from her. She wrote, "I know you don't want to talk, but I really need to explain things." I didn't react. What was there to explain? She screwed me over, and that was it. However, it appears that ignoring her did not convey the intended message. So, a few days later, I received a call from an unknown number. I picked it up, and guess who it was? Yes, my ex. I was about to hang up when she began crying, stating she didn't know who else to turn to. She's talking about how things with my brother are falling apart, how he's been out of job, and how they can barely afford to pay their expenses. And then she hits me with the whole, "You have to help for the sake of the baby" thing. Seriously, why would I aid them after all this? I told her flatly, no. Not my problem. You made your bed, now lie in it. But she simply kept talking. She admitted that she made a mistake, but she expected me to understand because we had been married once, which should count for something. She even tried to use the "remember all the good times we had" card to make me forget how she ended our marriage by hooking up with my own brother. Here is the thing. I wasn't even furious with her anymore. By this point, I was simply tired. I am tired of her. I am tired of my brother. Tired of my entire family acting as if I owed them something after all of their misbehavior. So I told her straight up, "I don't owe you anything. You're with my brother now, and he's your problem, not mine." That's when she became desperate. She started asking things like, "What about the baby? Don't you care about him? He could have been yours." That one hurt a little, I'll admit. I mean, I've always wanted children, and for a moment, I believed I was going to be a father. But then I remembered, the baby is not mine. And to be honest, that is no longer my responsibility. I advised her, "Look, the baby isn't mine, and it's not my job to take care of him or you. You've got a whole family who took your side, remember? Go ask them for help." And I called it quits. After that, I believed they'd take the hint and leave me alone. Spoiler alert. They didn't. A few days later, I'm at work, trying to get through the day, when my manager approaches my desk. He seemed uneasy, which is strange considering we typically get along very well. He says, "Hey man, there's someone here to see you." I think, who the hell would come to my job? So I walk out into the foyer, and guess who is standing there? My freaking mother. I'm almost done with all of this. Who shows up at someone's office unannounced? When I walk into the lobby, she immediately begins to focus on me. She asks, "Why are you ignoring us? We're family, and family doesn't abandon each other." I tell her I'm not abandoning anyone. I was done with their crap, but she wouldn't have it. She begins sobbing in front of everyone in the lobby about how I am punishing the entire family for a single error. She claims, my brother is in a really bad place right now, and that they're all struggling because of me. I looked her full in the eye and told her, "You're not struggling because of me. You're struggling because you chose to side with my brother after he destroyed my marriage. That's on you, not me." She went on to add that they had no idea things would turn out this way, and that all they wanted to do was set things right. But I didn't believe it for a second. I told her I wasn't going to argue with her in the middle of my job, and if she needed to chat, she could call me if I decided to unblock her phone number. That effectively silenced her. She gave me a long lecture about how I was better than this, and how she taught me to be more forgiving. I nearly laughed. Raise me? The same parents who spent my childhood elevating my brother and treating me as if I didn't exist? Okay, I understand. I informed her that if she didn't go, I'd have security accompany her outside. That's when she completely lost it. She began yelling at me, calling me selfish and stating that I was letting my pride stand in the way of assisting my family. I just stood there, finished with the entire affair. Finally, she stormed out, still ranting about how I was going to regret it. I returned to my desk, and my supervisor just looked at me like, "What the hell was that about?" I didn't bother explaining. What can I say? Sorry, my mom showed up to guilt-trip me into giving money to the brother who cheated on my wife? That would be nicely received. I simply told him it was a family drama, and left it at that. I spent the rest of the day in a daze, trying to concentrate on work, but all I could think about was how my family had progressed from screwing me over to outright harassment. They were now showing up at my employment. What happens next? Are they camped out in front of my apartment? That night, I decided that was enough. I sent one last message to my mother, father, brother, and even my ex-wife. I said to them all the same thing. Don't contact me again. I'm done with this family, and I don't want anything to do with you. Stop harassing me, or I'll get a restraining order. Harsh, perhaps. But I was over it. I'd already lost my marriage, my future goals, and all hope of a regular relationship with my family. I wasn't about to let them continue to tear me down. And you know what? For the first time in months, I felt a sense of calm after sending those notes. It felt like I had finally taken control of my own life, even if it meant alienating the people who were supposed to care the most about me. And I honestly don't regret it. Not a bit. Let's see whether they'll leave me alone this time. But something tells me this isn't over. After sending that final message begging my family to leave me alone, I hoped, just maybe, that I'd finally find peace. How many times do you have to tell folks to back off before they get the message, right? Well, it turns out that my family doesn't understand boundaries. Because my father arrived at my flat less than a week later. Yeah, no text, no call. Just standing at my door as if nothing was wrong. I open the door, and there he is, acting casually as if he's just stopping over for a visit. He gives me that fake smile he always does when he wants anything out of me, and I know this isn't going to be a pleasant visit. He begins, "Son, we need to talk." I'm already annoyed because, really, what now? Hasn't everyone done enough? I stepped outside, slammed the door behind me, and ordered him to hurry. I wasn't in the mood for more guilt trips or asking for money. He gets right into it. No warm-up this time, just straight to the point. He continues, "Your brother and your mother are struggling. Things aren't looking good, and they really need help. You're doing well for yourself now, aren't you? You could easily lend a hand." I could not believe it. After all, this was still their top priority, ensuring my brother's safety, while I was ignored as if I didn't exist. I cut him off right then and informed him, "I'm not giving them money, I'm not helping them, and I'm done with this conversation." But he wasn't finished. He kept pushing, stating that family supports family, that they were all going through a difficult time, and that I needed to step up. Step up. The boldness of that suddenly struck me like a stone. I've worked hard my entire life, but they've treated me like nothing. I said straight to him, "You've never stepped up for me. Not once. When my wife was cheating on me with my brother, where were you? When I needed you, you were on their side, not mine. So don't come here asking me to step up now." He stood there for a second, as if he didn't expect me to push back. He then attempted to play the guilt card, of course. He went on, "I know we've made mistakes, but we're still your family. We'll always be your family." It's as if they believe that simply using the word family will erase all of the pain they've caused me. I was done playing nice. I said to him, "Family? You're not my family anymore. Not after everything you've done. You threw me away for him, and now you expect me to save you? Oh no. That's not how it works." He became defensive, stating I was being dramatic and needed to stop carrying grudges. He stated my brother made a mistake, but I overreacted by shutting everyone off. That word, overreacting, set me off. I responded, "You think I'm overreacting? My wife slept with my brother. The child she's raising should have been my kid. You all stood by and watched it happen, then asked me to forgive him like nothing ever happened. And now you have the nerve to come here and ask me to help you? That's not overreacting. That's setting boundaries." He was visibly upset, but he was attempting to remain composed. He clarified, "We didn't know things would turn out like this. We just wanted to keep the peace in the family." I couldn't believe what I heard. Keep the peace? How is allowing my brother to destroy my marriage keeping the peace? However, it was really typical of them. They've always attempted to sweep things under the rug, pretending nothing is wrong, and expecting me to just go along with it. I informed him, "Keeping the peace is just code for ignoring the real problem. You've been ignoring me my whole life, pretending everything's fine as long as my brother's happy. Well, I'm not ignoring it anymore. I'm done." And with that, I turned and began heading back to my door. But of course, he wasn't finished. He grabbed my arm, which was a horrible decision on his behalf. I jerked my arm away saying, "Don't touch me." He glanced at me as if he did not recognize the person standing in front of him. I think he truly thought I'd cave, like I used to when I was younger. But I'm not that kid anymore. And I wasn't about to be manipulated into giving them what they wanted. Before he went, he attempted one final guilt trip. He went on, "You'll regret this one day. You'll see that family is all that matters." I stared him dead in the eye and answered, "No. Respect is what matters. And I haven't received any from you or anyone else in this family, so I won't regret this." He stood there for a moment, as if he was going to say something, but he simply shook his head and went away. When I came back inside, I sat down and tried to comprehend everything. No matter what I did, they couldn't understand that I wasn't going to be a part of their mess anymore. They couldn't take the fact that I wasn't following their rules, and it drove them mad. Part of me hoped that after all this time, they'd recognize how horribly they'd messed up. Perhaps they would apologize or acknowledge the harm they caused. But that was simply wishful thinking. They don't realize what they did wrong. They never will. In their minds, I am the bad guy for going away. I am the one who is breaking up the family. But, you know what? I'm fine with that. If standing up for myself makes me the bad guy in their story, that's okay. I'll be the bad guy. I'm not going to let them guilt me into becoming their doormat again. After my father went, I blocked him too. I did not want to cope with any more unexpected visits or phone calls. I knew they'd keep trying, but at least for now, I could relax. Or so I thought. The phone rang again. This time, the number was unknown. I let it go to voicemail, assuming it was just another attempt to reach me. But when I reviewed the message later, I discovered it was not from my family at all, but from a lawyer. My ex-wife tried to sue me for further alimony. That was the last straw. I'm not the same person I was when it all began. I've learned that sometimes you need to fight back. So now I'm preparing for the legal battle. I've been through hell, and if they want to keep pushing, I'll push back. This time they won't win. I'm done being the one that is stepped on. After receiving a voicemail from the lawyer stating that my ex-wife was attempting to obtain further alimony from me, I felt it was time to fight back. I wasn't going to let her or my family drag me through the mud anymore. That was enough. First things first, I contacted my lawyer. I told him everything that had been going on, from my ex attempting to acquire more money to my family bothering me constantly. He was as fed up as I was, and he insisted that we put an end to this once and for all. So we began working on a case. It turns out she didn't have much of a leg to stand on. She was already receiving a nice settlement from the divorce, so there was no reason for her to ask for more. But you know how some people are. They'll keep pushing until they get their way, or until someone stops them. I determined I wouldn't allow her to walk all over me anymore. And I wasn't going to allow my family to continue influencing me. My lawyer and I prepared a strong defense. We even discovered certain loopholes that could get me out of paying alimony entirely. That's when things became interesting. A few days before the court date, my brother, yes, him again, decided to contact me. This time he sent me a lengthy email, attempting to play the big brother role. It was all about how he regretted the outcome, and missed having me in his life. I could almost hear his phony earnestness in the words. He even attempted to explain that the affair was not what it appeared. That it was a mistake, and that they did not intend to upset me. Yeah, sure. A mistake that lasted months and resulted in a child, right? I did not react to the email because, well, what was the point? I knew he was only reaching out because he and my ex were afraid they would lose the alimony, and they were probably hoping to guilt-trip me into giving up. But I wasn't going to let that happen. I was finished with them. They had a chance to fix things, and they botched it, repeatedly. So the court date finally arrives, and I'm prepared. My lawyer has everything organized, and we're going in prepared for whatever they throw at us. My ex and her lawyer arrive, and surprise, surprise, she has my brother with her for backup. I wasn't surprised, but it was still upsetting to see them together, like they weren't the ones who ruined my life. They didn't even have the courtesy to appear ashamed or embarrassed about it. They just sat there whispering to each other, appearing to be the victims in all of this. When it was eventually our turn to present the case, my lawyer spelled everything out. He mentioned that my ex was already receiving more than enough from the divorce settlement, and that she was not entitled to more money simply because things were not going well for her. He further pointed out that she had been dishonest during the divorce proceedings, concealing the fact that she and my brother had been dating for months before the divorce was finalized. Basically, we made it apparent that she did not deserve any further money from me. Her lawyer attempted to explain that she needed more money to support the baby, not my child, but it fell flat. My lawyer shut that down quickly. He stated it wasn't my obligation to care for their child, and the judge appeared to agree. What is the best part? My lawyer had also accumulated proof of my family's harassment over the previous 3 months, including texts, unannounced visits, and my mother showing up at my employment. He offered it to the judge as evidence that they were attempting to influence and coerce me into paying them money. The court seemed unimpressed with their actions, and you could see the look on my ex's face as she realized things weren't going her way. By the end, the judge had ruled in my favor. Not only did my ex not receive any further alimony, but they also cut the amount I was giving her. The judge saw right through her performance and determined that she didn't deserve as much as she had been given. It was the best result I could have asked for. Following the verdict, my ex and brother stormed out of the courthouse without saying anything to me. I could see rage and frustration on their expressions, and it felt fantastic. For the first time in this entire disaster, I felt like I had won. I wasn't the one being walked all over anymore. But it did not end there. My father tried calling me again a few days following the court verdict. He left a voicemail saying something about how I had damaged the family and was ripping them apart. I didn't even hear the whole thing. I simply deleted it and banned his number again. I was not going to let them drag me back into their drama. I was finished, for real this time, and honestly, I feel liberated now. For the first time in years, I don't feel the weight of my family's expectations, my ex's falsehoods, or my brother's treachery. I am just me. I've cut them all out, and am focused on myself. It's not always simple, and it still aches to think about what happened. But I'm not going to let it dictate my life anymore. Since the court case, I've focused on my work, my friends, and simply living my life. I'm not going to lie and claim that everything is perfect right now. It isn't. I still get irritated at times and wonder what could have been if things had turned out differently. However, those occasions are becoming increasingly rare. The truth is that I'm better off without them. My family, and especially my ex, were poisonous. It took me a long time to see it, but I finally did. I am never going back to that life. I've got a new start, and I'm not going to waste it. So that is the end of it. My family tried to screw me over, and my ex tried to take more than she deserved, but in the end, I came out ahead. I have no idea what the future contains, but for the first time in a long time, I'm excited to find out. And if they ever try to re-enter my life, well, let's just say I'm no longer afraid to fight back. Update 1. Okay. So this is when things took an unexpected turn. After the divorce and cutting off contact with my family, I felt I'd had enough of their crap. But you know what they say, right? When it rains, it pours. I should have known they would not simply leave me alone. I received a message from someone I haven't communicated with in years. My aunt. Now let me tell you a little bit about her. She's my father's sister, and we were never really close growing up. She seemed to avoid family turmoil, so I didn't think much of her. but she seems to be keeping up with everything because she heard about my divorce and contacted me. At first I assumed she was just checking in to see how I was doing. But alas, she had her own agenda, just like everyone else in my family. She began by expressing her concern for my parents and how the circumstance had pulled the family apart. Then she asked me if I would reconsider talking to them again. She stated that they were struggling without me, and that it wasn't too late to fix things. I was astonished, like, are you serious? After everything that has transpired, I am supposed to fix things? I told her straight out that I had no interest in fixing anything. I made it obvious that they were the ones who put me under the bus, not the other way around. And I was not going to pretend everything was all right simply because they were hurting right now. She tried to guilt trip me, saying things like, your dad isn't getting any younger, and family is all we've got at the end of the day. I'd heard it all before. It didn't work before, and it certainly wasn't working now. I told her the same thing I told my parents. I owe them nothing. I'm not going to sweep everything under the rug just because they've decided it's time to have me back in their lives. She didn't take it very well. She became defensive, stating that my parents were only trying to do what was best for everyone, and that I needed to let go of my resentment. I wasn't even upset at that point. Just tired of having the same conversation over and over. I told her that if she truly cared about the family, she should have intervened when everything was happening, rather than showing up now when it was convenient for her. The talk ended abruptly after that. She stated she was disappointed in me, which was sort of funny. Disappointed in me? Who in this family has tried to stand up for themselves? Okay. I understand. So that's where I am now. They're still trying to get me back in, making me feel like the bad guy for refusing to deal with their problems. But I am not falling for it. I've traveled too far to return now. I have my own life to live, and I am not going to spend it cleaning up their trash. Thanks for watching and diving into this wild family drama with me. If you love Reddit family drama, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one.